to the Overplayed podcast, the home of sports and sports gaming in your ear every single Thursday, right here on your preferred app, whatever that app essentially is. I am half of the show. My name is GoodGameBro, and I'm probably the lesser half. At least I have the lesser beard, but at least I win in fantasy football. Unlike my host over there, Mills. Mills, how are you?
I'm gonna be lying. I won't lie to you. Fantasy football is taking a toll this year. I think it's taking a toll on everybody this year. It's not an excuse, but like between the injuries, what is it? 2021 is almost. You can play your fiddle all you want. For you, those of you watching this on YouTube and soon on Twitch and Facebook, eh, there are so many injuries in the NFL this year, and so many just terrible, like nagging injuries. My team's completely decimated. I'll be lucky to make it through the rest of the season if you will be real.
Wow. So if I remember, we didn't have a show last week, but we did have a show the week prior. You felt pretty confident, against me. What's your record against me this year in fantasy?
I'm 0-2 against you this year. Now, to be clear, I am 0-2 against you, and that does not matter in the standings because we are both 8-4, and I'm still above you because I have scored 1,100 points on the year, and you have scored 1,022 points.
Okay, I win by the skin of my teeth. You beat up on bad teams. What's the difference? You're
on a 7-game winning streak too, for what it's worth.
I'm probably not going to win this week because I have players out. I have injuries across. I mean, I've had injuries across the board this entire year, and I've.
Wait. Well, hold on. You were playing the fiddle when I talked the injury line to you. Now you're going to talk about your injuries. Hold on. Your team is.
I'm the underdog.
Derek Carr. Oh my God. You have a lot of people on bye. You've Chubb, Aaron Rodgers. You're running Dontrell Hilliard. Hopefully he doesn't fumble 8 more times in one game.
Yeah.
I do like the Logan Thomas pickup, though. I think Logan Thomas is one of those sneaky coming back off the IR. He got a lot of snaps Sunday, or Monday night. I think he could be really a sneaky pickup if you're looking for a tight end down the stretch. Heineke's looking better and better by the game, and it's always going to be if Heineke has time in the pocket. So
yeah, and if there's one thing I've learned. What do quarterbacks that are struggling always do? They go to their tight end. And Logan Thomas actually had 2 catches for a touchdown. One of them got called back this past week. So I'm banking on your God help me. I need 30 points from Logan Thomas, which is scary. So
it's gonna be a rough one. I think all over. And you're actually going against the person who is in third place. I think it's Kevin behind the 2 of us in the division. So we both need you to beat him because right now. My team this week, you want to talk about piece together? I'm considering starting Taysom Hill at quarterback Thursday night. I've been streaming quarterbacks. I originally drafted Ryan Tannehill after thinking, he's got some movement, he's got some rushing yards, and it's just been downhill this year. So I cut him. I ran Daniel Jones last week. I've had Taysom Hill at one point. I had Teddy Bridgewater at one point. Like I've had the whole run. So my goal for this week is Taysom Hill getting about 3 rushing touchdowns, even with Kamara back. I finally got Cooper Kupp back, Jalen Waddle's back, or as some commentator calls him, Jalen Weddle. I don't know why. I'll always be able to lean on Jonathan Taylor, but then now Dalvin Cook is hurt for me, so it's an Antonio Gibson kind of day. I'm so
you lost to me when Jonathan Taylor scored 51 points.
I know. Did you see the rest of the games? Did you see the rest of those games? The rest of the players? He scored 50, and everybody else was like 5, 3, 2 out early in the game. I was like, come on.
I love it.
That was one of the most frustrating. That was one of the most frustrating weeks for me fantasy on all of my fantasy friends because I'm heavy into DFS now, daily fantasy, and I've had some good games. I've won a couple $100 on a couple of different games, but a lot of my games have been, oh, hey, look, you've got Russell Westbrook. Oh, that's right. He forgot how to play since he came back from injury. And by the way, he completely ignores the fact he's got a receiver with blue hair. That's one of the best receivers in the entire league in DK Metcalf. But you know what? No, forget DK Metcalf. He's the, only the one that can get down the field the fastest. Why throw to him against the Washington football team?
Russell Westbrook plays in the NFL.
Awful. Who?
You said Russell Westbrook plays in the NFL?
No. Russell Wilson. I'm at this point, I may start Russell Westbrook at quarterback just to see if I can get some points out of it.
Might work.
So forget fantasy for a second, please. Let me forget fantasy for a second. Talk to me. It's been a big couple of weeks in gaming. Some big game drops. Anything you've been getting into the mix, or what have you been doing lately?
Man, Halo Infinite has been so much fun. I've been playing a ton of that. The gameplay of Halo Infinite, I think, is the best Halo gameplay we've ever had. This is coming from somebody who was a ride or die. Halo 3 is the GOAT. Don't come at me, bro. Like I have my shield and my sword ready if you were trying to come at me about Halo 3. Big fan of that. But I think Infinite is the best gameplay we've ever had from Halo, and I am so happy about that. Now, the battle pass system, the progression, how they're sort of handling some of the unlocks. Don't love it. I'm gonna be honest. It's some of the weakest I think we've seen from a shooter in recent times. And they have a lot of work, but I will say, like, if you follow any of their community managers or some of their higher profile employees, they've been super communicative about what they're working to fix, what they're tweaking, what they can do in the here and now that's very easy to tweak, but then what is also something that's a larger term goal that has a lot more levers and gears they have to sort of like figure out behind the scenes. So look, it's Halo. It's Microsoft's flagship title. I fully believe in 343. I think 343 has gotten a bad rap over the years. They've had some mistakes,
sure.
but the communication and the way they're talking to people and how they're acknowledging things gives me incredible hope for that game. I think this time next year, we're going to be talking about Halo as being, a model citizen in sort of like across the board for multiplayer. And dear God, please announce a battle royale at the Game Awards so I can be fully happy and lose my shit. But yeah, Halo has really been consuming me along with Warzone. Warzone has a new map dropping called Dara for Warzone Pacific. They're doing a lot of really cool stuff too. I literally spent the first 20 minutes of my stream reading patch notes and blog stuff to my stream, which I never do. So yeah, those have been the main things for me, and there's some stuff that's been disappointing, which we'll talk about here shortly. But those have been the high key things for me.
I finally got college football revamped installed.
Thank God, Mills.
I'm excited. It'll be sometime this week. I'm excited to get my hands dirty with it. I got a chance to mess around with some of the gameplay changes they've made. I found like a slider set that kind of went along with it. Vikes fan with the rosters for this year, dude. It is. I will say, it is impressive what essentially modders. I mean, they're gameplay designers at this point, but what modders are able to do with what NCAA 14 used to be.
Yep.
It is incredible the game they have come up with. And this is gonna sound crazy, but I think EA Sports college football has got a little big shoes to fill when it comes to college football revamped. They're lucky that not everybody can get their hands on this. And I'm surprised with college football coming out, they haven't like started to lean into this at some point, being, hey, we got to cease and desist because we have a game coming out. It's 100% going to happen at some point. So I'm just trying to get my fun out of it while I can. It's interesting to me that on December 8th, Warzone Pacific and Halo Infinite both drop the same day. There's going to be some decisions to be made that day from some first-person shooter fans. I'm actually, after seeing the patch notes for Vanguard today, that are coming out in Warzone Pacific, most specifically the what is it called? Dead. What's the perk?
Oh, Dead Silence.
Dead Silence is being nerfed. They're nerfing some of the guns. Obviously, Vanguard guns are going to have a little bit of a boost. They always do whenever there's a new Warzone. But I'm actually a little excited for some of the changes they're making that it looks like they're going to increase the skill gap, but at the same time, allow casual players to jump in and not be completely overwhelmed. It's a very hard balance to come by, and a balance that, again, we'll talk about this soon, that sports games are going to have to find at some point, I would think. The other thing I've been doing is a lot of NBA 2K. I finally found the spot of NBA 2K My NBA. I finally found the drive, and that is Simcast Live. It amazes me that NBA has so many different ways to play, and every one of them is incredibly deep in the process. I know season 3 is coming out for City. They're adding a single player mode to the city on the rooftops. It's actually called Rooftops. It's set up, quote unquote, by Jackson Ellis, and you do 2s, 3s, and 4s games and have to go through like a whole series of them. I don't know if they give rep, but apparently they're going to give like rewards and stuff to single players, which excites the hell out of me because I'm a single player kind of guy. But like for my NBA, being able to see everybody move, being able to change the speed on the fly, being able to make subs, make calls. I'm getting back into where I was with NBA a couple of years ago, and that is testing freelances,
Yeah.
learning more of more of the required, like, the play calls and everything, figuring out like an 8-man rotation instead of just subbing 5 guys in. I'm just it's becoming more of a passion now for me than I thought it could be. And I can really see I'm an NBA fan. I would say I'm less of an NBA fan than you are, but I'm still an NBA fan. Like, I keep up, I watch games. This is making me want to watch more games to the point where I actually went and got the 50% off league pass for Black Friday. I get the 50%
Word.
off, and I'm gonna have it on all the time now because it's just one of those things. Having a fun franchise mode makes me want to be more of a fan of the sport.
Yep, agreed. I've been big into NBA, or my NBA more so recently too. Like I kind of
Mhm.
didn't start one because I'm like, man, they didn't really change much. Like what? Like why do I want to go through the grind again? But I think like always like a really good or a franchise mode that allows you to do a variety of things and sort of play within the sandbox always intrigues me. And so I started my Louisville Badger series back on YouTube.
Yep.
That's been fun. I did my full every year with any of my franchises. I always create draft classes, and I love NBA 2K because you have sort of the random. There's the boom, bust, and average perspective, right? And so
Mhm.
I have all these rookies that I created in the first draft class, and I've been running with that. And I did it earlier when I started the franchise, and now by the draft, I forgot if this player was good or that player was good, and so that always is fun.
Right.
And it's just I don't know. There's so many cool things. The storylines you sort of weave within it, and it's a game that obviously we'd love to see some adjustments in their franchise, but that franchise mode is so well thought out already that they have some forgiveness, unlike maybe some other franchises, unfortunately, currently.
Yeah, and before we segue, it's a perfect segue that I'm going to ruin. I apologize.
Hate you.
I want to bring up like the staff changes, the changing to my staff. I actually went through for about a half hour to 45 minutes on stream, struggling to figure out who I wanted to hire to my staff because there were a couple of. I feel like they balanced them very well. There were a couple of really high rated like assistant coaches, but they had the snake badge. And I know if they're an assistant coach with the snake badge, eventually they want to take my spot, and
Yep.
I can't take that I can't take that on. Like, I don't want to have staff that I can't trust. I'm not doing the full my GM. I'm not doing the conversations because I found that they become extremely repetitive.
Yep.
And I think that takes away from the mode a lot. But having all those extra dude, there are so many new badges for staff this year. It's like creating your own like roster.
Yeah.
The staff is almost as important as your roster. You have to go through like physio, sleep doctor, sports psychologist. You have to go through domestic scouts, foreign scouts. Like, it is
And
really,
with the
really
budget
deep.
for all of those
Right.
guys.
Yeah, you can't. By the way, you can't hire all of them. You can't. There's no way because you're not going to be able to pay all of them. You can hire some of them, even your coaching staff, assistant coach,
Yeah.
big man coach, wing whisperer is one
Our
of the things.
guru.
Yeah, there are all kinds of these cool things that are like the real NBA, and you don't have to touch them if you don't want to. You can automate it if you want to, but if you really want to get your hands dirty, man, they really let you get your hands dirty. And as you said, some other games could learn from the ability to get your hands dirty in a franchise mode, which brings us to our kickoff story. And that is, it was reported by Gamers Online. Very good website. A friend of mine, Mike Straw, works there as a journalist. He put the story out there that there were supposed to be 3 franchise mode live service updates. I actually didn't remember this when the story came up. I actually refuted it for a second and said, no, there's not supposed to be. But then we went back and looked at the welcome notes, the welcome gridiron notes to franchise before the game was released. And it does say there was 3 live service planned updates. That means the scouting update and 2 others for Madden franchise mode. And then just to make sure we definitely heard it right, we went back to the EA Play interview with Nick Mazesco, was leading it. Swami was on it, friend of the channel. But also Tom Litchke was on it. And he said very specifically that they are hoping, or they weren't even hoping, they're planning 3 major updates to franchise. That was the target. The issue that I have now is that the story is that these 2 updates that aren't the scouting update have been canceled because they have moved a lot of their development roster over to the EA college sports football game, which also confirms what we thought, that the college sports football game is being developed at Tiburon. At what point is it enough? Because Sean Grady said on multiple videos that, and I don't like to call developers out by name. You know that. I'm very hesitant to call developers out by name because it's normally a team effort. But in this case, Sean Grady put himself out there. He was the one that went up video-wise on there and was like, hey, look, I'm telling you, franchise is a priority. Franchise is something that we are committed to. We are committed to continuing making it better and better and better. And maybe they are. Maybe internally they are. But what this shows that franchise is the first thing they will take from when they need resources. These resources were not taken from, it doesn't look like the gameplay team. I don't know who they took to college football. But the first thing we heard about were these 2 planned franchise updates being canceled completely out of Madden 22. Yet, when we look, there are still promos for Madden Ultimate Team. There are planned promos. Every time I listen to Good Morning Madden, it is, hey man, Blitz is happening. Hey, Harvest is happening. Zero Chill is being teased. You know, it's not being teased anymore. Any more franchise updates to the horrid trade AI, the horrid drafting AI, the entire scouting update right now. It's fun to go through, but at the end of the day, you can just cheese the computer for anyone you want. So my question for you is, what does this mean for the future of franchise mode in Madden?
I'm gonna be honest. When I saw this news, obviously from Sports Gamers Online, shout out to Mike Straw over there for breaking that. It's so disheartening, man. I think about why did I start playing sports games in general, right? When you're a kid, it doesn't matter who you are, what you are, where you come from. If you love sports, you always dream. You at some point have a dream of either playing for a team or running the team, or potentially both. And so for me, when I'm a kid and I'm thinking about running a team, it was sports video games have a franchise mode or a dynasty mode, and I get to go in and make all these decisions like I was the GM or owner of the Steelers and do all these cool things, right? And rebuild my team, because I sat through the era of Neil O'Donnell and Bubby Brister, and don't you dare slander Cordell Stewart, because I love Cordell Stewart, but
ex-Raven, Ravens legend Cordell Stewart.
But you want to do all these amazing things with a team, and then when you're younger, you're like, man, 15, 20 years from now, I can't wait to play these franchise modes when I have kids, and these modes are going to be so insane. When you get them, and then you become old like us, and then these modes aren't that great anymore. These modes are being kicked to the side; they're afterthoughts, and then we go through the whole. I think it's just frustrating to go through the whole hashtag Fix Madden franchise, right? The incredible movement. We saw so many creators, and RBT amongst plenty of others were pushing for that like heavily. We saw so many YouTubers, content creators, people that just genuinely love the franchise, people that are just everyday players of it. So much effort behind that. And then for EA to respond in the way that they did, which we both gave them props for, of look, yes, they have been terrible at franchise mode and giving it any attention, any resources, but they finally owned up. They finally owned up. Grady sat in front of the camera, did that whole thing. They then built out a communication pipeline. He's got the leak, quote unquote, behind him on purpose, with the TV. We do all that. And I know this is not just on Sean Grady, right? I'm sure there are other powers to be, but to your point, like Grady put his face out there for that.
He put his face and name and voice to this fix. Okay, listen, and that's what we gave him props for. And at the time, we both said the same thing. This is dangerous. It is
Yep.
dangerous to put your name onto this because of a situation like this. And honestly, if they were going really well with franchise, if this was 3 or 4 years in and they were like, "Oh, hey, we got to cancel these 2 franchise updates because, we're getting college football back together." Franchise fans wouldn't I don't think they would have responded like this. We would have been upset, sure. I mean, no one wants to lose something like that, but we would have a track record of, look, they've showed they really want to get this back. What they're showing now again is that, hey, yeah, as long as we've got the manpower, hey, franchise is good. Until we need that manpower for something else, then I mean, what up?
Yeah, this to me though screams Madden's. It screams two things. One, the importance of college football, which is the only what is it? Silver lining or whatever, I guess, from this.
Right. Yeah.
Words are hard for me, but the importance of college football is the only silver lining I think they were getting out of this. Hopefully, dear God, that has a great dynasty mode because I don't know how I'm going to react if it doesn't.
Well, hold on. Before you move on to your next point, that's a great silver lining. College sports football, right? But what was the thing everyone remembers from college football from NCAA 14? The dynasty mode.
Yeah.
I mean, has anything since NCAA 14 stopped being made given you any confidence that EA can put out a good dynasty mode in the upcoming NCAA or college football game? My thought is that they're going to have a really, really good college football ultimate team.
Yeah, and that's where I'm going though. Is I think they are putting a massive importance on college football because they probably are seeing name, image, and likeness, and the dollar signs are going to be coming from that, from getting a lot of these players that can essentially come through. But I also can't help but wonder: is Madden struggling from like a financial part in terms of like the ultimate team, right? Like we'll obviously know once EA has their investor calls, but
right.
I could see this being the part of the reason for the decision was, hey, we have to make sure that we get college football where it needs to be. This also makes me feel like college football is coming sooner than we initially anticipated. But I also then think, are they seeing rocky starts from Ultimate Team? And they're like, look, for our staff, we need to focus on Ultimate Team to hit whatever revenue goal they're essentially pushing for. That is where my brain initially goes. And I hate that that's where my brain goes, right? Yeah. I want to live in a world where both of these modes are getting great. I'm not saying that franchise mode has to get as much attention as Ultimate Team. I get that Ultimate Team is a revenue driving mode for them. It is important in a variety of different ways for them. I get it, right? I know that if we're making a sandwich, that's the patty, that's the meat, that's literally the burger. I get that franchise mode is, the lettuce or tomato or whatever, but can we just get a big old piece? I don't like tomatoes, but a big old piece of tomato instead of just this thin castaway piece that we've been getting over the years. That's what the frustrating part is.
My frustration is I feel blindsided. I feel like Madden just wanted to placate us for as long as they probably could. All right. I really believe that what this was Sean Grady, and well, we're going to call it Madden. Instead of saying Sean Grady, Madden put their creative director, producer, whatever they want to put up on video and said, hey, look, franchise fans, here, all of your franchise wishes and dreams are going to come true. You are now the priority. You are now what we decide as you are the important part of this game. And then to come back and literally be like, hey, look, we're going to cancel 2 of the 3 updates that we told you were coming out. And mind you, not only did they tell us they were coming out, they told us they were coming out and then didn't mention them again. This is not, if Sports Gamers Online doesn't get this story, Madden may have gotten away with this. Like EA may have gotten away with not saying anything. I even told you, like for me personally, I had no idea there was 3 live service updates because they haven't talked about them. And as open as they were with the Madden 21 roadmap, it has been just the opposite with Madden 22. The scouting update was delayed. The scouting update came out and then it came out later than it was supposed to. They didn't tell us it was coming out later than it was supposed to by almost a month until the week that it got delayed. It was insanity, absolute insanity that they went from as open communication as they were with the Fixed Madden franchise movement to within a year, just like that, Now they're like, oh, well, you know what? Maybe we don't want to talk about this anymore because, our black eyes only get so much more black. And, we're tired of getting hit on. And no, come on. And again, my big story for this, my big story is not the Madden 22 updates getting canceled. It's I'm losing faith that they can make a good college football game. I've lost all faith that they can make a college football game that does not involve Ultimate Team heavily. I think it's going to be a college sports football game with heavy Ultimate Team, with their Legends licenses, with the whole NIL going through now. And you know what? Dynasty mode, it'll be there. I'm sure it'll be there. Maybe they'll just rip it out of 14 and bring it over. But I mean, there's no way. They've shown us for years that franchise modes don't matter.
Let's play a little game. Okay, I'm gonna ask you about features in NCAA football, and you tell me if you think they're gonna be in the game. You ready?
Yeah.
Importing.
Absolutely not. Road to Glory, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Road to Glory is the first one you're going to bring up because we both want to play it. It's not in. Zero chance.
Okay,
have you seen Face of the Franchise?
Okay.
Have you played Face of the Franchise? Then have you played? Dude, I started my career on Twitch on NBA, and I was like, why can't we have this in a football game? I didn't mean to cut you off, but I will
say, no, 100%. My career, though, when we talk about sports, sports like career modes, right? For an individual career, that to me is the model you go with, because what I love about that, I can play any position. I can be any type of player that I essentially want. But more importantly, the way they did it this year with sort of like that RPG open world-esque sort of approach of like going through the city or whatever, that was absolutely fantastic, because I felt like when I had to go talk to my agent, like sometimes it's annoying to have to like ride my little skateboard or bike over there, but still, like I had an apartment. When I move up in my career, it starts getting better and better, different locations, like that whole aspect. Like there's so many cool things, and the quest system I think is a really cool addition that I hope 2K keeps long term. But yeah, we both agree Road to Glory will likely not be there. Do you think we will have the ability to import our players that go to the NFL draft from NCAA into Madden?
I'll say yes to that. I think that's a pretty big one. I don't know if it'll be year one, but I think that is something that, oh God, I'm giving too much. I'm giving too much hope. No,
Sorry.
I don't.
Okay.
I think that, and I think the excuse they're going to use is, well, the tech is really hard, and Madden is built on about 100 layers of code.
The usability of it in 2013 was.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no. In NCAA 14, you see, we had this code and we built the game from the ground up, but Madden's not built from the ground up. And every time we upload, from rosters from EA Sports College Football, it freezes, or we get weird names, or, it doesn't understand the language. You see, college football and Madden are two different languages, and you guys don't quite. Oh, this is where I love it. And you guys don't understand what coding is, okay? You all don't understand what game design is. You guys don't quite get what we do here, okay? Just so you know, I want you guys to understand that we're doing everything we can in the time allotted for us. Yeah, okay, sure. By the way, here's your 150 purchasable cards at 2% odds on day one. Make sure you get that Vince Young quarterback. I'm sorry, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. Okay. Coaching carousel in Dynasty mode.
Yes.
This is pivotal. If they don't have coaching carousel, that's pivotal.
Yes, only because it's broken in Madden too.
Yeah.
Because you can, by the way, if you didn't know, hiring other teams hiring your coordinators is completely broken, and they've known about it since launch. No, so I will say coaching carousel will be in there, and of course it will be bugged somehow.
Okay. Do you think we will have the same style recruiting system as NCAA 14, or something that's like well and thought out?
It will be eerily similar to NCAA 14. You will look at it, it will be under a different skin, but it would not surprise me if they pull NCAA 14 almost line for line. almost line for line with like
Okay.
with like the different but under a different like skin. Like, oh, you can go to the person's home in this menu, and well, it's actually dug 4 menus underneath because their UI department just, I don't know what in the world they're thinking.
Okay. This is the big one. I saved the best. This is my last one. This is the best one. And if this is not in, they will trend for the reason they do not want to trend.
Yes,
Will college
absolutely.
football have team builder?
Oh. Oh man, it was a mess. If you remember when NCAA 14 released, Team Builder was a mess.
Yeah.
Like, they took them a while to fix that. Um if they're building college sports football from the ground up, no. Absolutely not. Because why wouldn't you have that in Madden? Like, why wouldn't you have that ability to
Because you
edit
have
jerseys and stuff?
because you have the NFL you have to answer to versus their now not having an answer to the NCAA. So technically they have more legal license there.
Nah. No other EA game has jersey creation where you can like put logos into the game. No other EA game, and you can already see what happens to MLB and NBA.
Yep.
EA sees that. EA sees that people would just use that for nefarious reasons. We might get a team builder, but it's not going to be anywhere near what we had in NCAA 14.
Okay. Last
I'm sorry
question.
to be negative here. Like, I'm just going off of what we had for Madden since NCAA 14 was released.
Okay.
Like, literally, there's nothing about Madden that should give us any hope that the college sports football is going to have things and be this nostalgia bomb that NCAA 14 was.
Okay. This is the last one. This isn't. I don't think this is as important as team builder, but I think them not having team builder, they're gonna get crucified for if they don't do that,
Oh, sure.
or some
Yeah.
version of that. But
again, sorry. But one more thing about team builder.
Yeah.
You know what the excuse is going to be, right? Oh,
We're gonna
well,
have 600 excuses.
we're rebuilding the game. We're adding features year to year. This is essentially a brand new game, so don't think about things that were in the game 5 years ago. Oh, you know why I know that? Because it's exactly what they said about Madden.
Yeah. Okay. Now this one is interesting because of the success of college football revamped. Are we going to have a PC version of the game?
No. That's the reason you will not have a PC version of the game. Madden doesn't have a PC version because they don't. Madden has a PC version that does not get updated. It's not next gen, and the reason is because Madden's PC community is so small. FIFA does because FIFA's massive, but like NBA 2K, a game the size of NBA 2K, they didn't port next gen over into the PC either because the community is so small. Sports gaming on the PC is a niche community, and niche or niche. People can tell me I say it wrong. I say it one way, and then they tell me it's the other way, and then the other half of the audience is like, no, it's not that way. It's whatever, niche, whatever it is. It is such a niche community with sports gaming there. NHL fans have been asking for hockey back on NHL for a while. Hell, MLB The Show fans want to know when it's coming out for PC now that it's out for Xbox.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, did you notice how the Switch, that whole Nintendo Switch tweeted about, everyone being involved in baseball and not one word about MLB The Show going on the Switch? Yeah, Don't always believe the tweets, chat. But yeah, no, absolutely not. Porting over to PC seems to be like hieroglyphics. So no, absolutely not. And if it is, it's going to be, again, a buggy mess. If you play Madden 22 right now, you literally can't, like, if you're playing it on PC and you're playing it full screen, you can't go to another screen without it minimizing still.
They don't have like full screen borderless or anything?
Nope. Still don't. Haven't for 2 years. So haven't since next gen started. That was when I saw that they were whenever it started coming out again. When I saw that, the first thing I told them was, "Hey, you got to have this. This is like quality of life for not only streamers, but everybody has multiple monitors at this point. Like, you can't just minimize when you click off screen. Guess what? Nothing.
I know people are gonna be like, you guys are so negative about it. If you've been around as long as these two ancient people in this podcast have, there's just patterns that are likely going to come. And I think the news that we've obviously been ranting on about Madden canceling their franchise updates allegedly without giving a front-facing consumer update, speaks volumes. And we'll see what they end up coming out and saying. I'm sure they're preparing public facing language, and if they do it, it'll be on a Friday or on a Monday where no one's gonna remember, or it's gonna get swallowed by other news.
Mhm.
But it's disheartening, and I know there are great people working on Madden. There are great people working on NCAA football, or sorry, college football down there. But it's so hard to be excited when you're just so used to being disappointed at this point.
There's zero chance. EA has shown time and time again they are about bottom line. And this whole moving, let's go back to the original story. The original story is they didn't have the resources to hire new people to work on college football, so they moved people from from NFL, from Madden, right? Same thing we were just talking about last week. UFC, right? What happened when Fight Night came around? Oh, we're going to move the developers from UFC to Fight Night. I mean, you don't have the resources to hire new developers? I mean, I'm okay with moving some of them. I mean, football to football, fighting to fighting. Like, I get that. So then move a couple and then bring a bunch of coders in. Like, hire new people. I'm tired of being told how resource poor these companies are when all I get told from game sales and DLC sales and stock calls are how profitable these companies are these days. What, like, tell me why you can't hire more people to do this, do the grunt work. I know what it is. It's not game designers. They've got some really bright, listen to me. EA hired Swami and Deuce Douglas from the community. And everybody that knows those two names, dude, Deuce Douglas wrote a dissertation on how to fix franchise mode. Yeah, what was it? It was like 42, 50 pages, something like that.
I had one that was 100. It was insane.
Oh, no, he did multiple of them, okay? They hired those two. And you know what happened to franchise mode? It got it won't get worse. It got scouting update, but a lot of the stuff isn't being fixed. And now the story is that they're taking those people that work around that franchise mode and moving them to college football. Why hire these genius designers? And I'm calling Swami a genius because that's what he is. I'm calling Deuce Douglas a genius because that's what he is. Why hire these people that are the brightest, most talented people you can find around franchise mode if you're going to cut their legs out from underneath them? Shame, absolute shame on the people. And again, this isn't the developers doing this. This isn't Clint. This isn't, I mentioned Tom Lichkey. This isn't Tom Lichkey doing this. This is higher ups at EA making these calls. These are not developers. You shouldn't be attacking people on Twitter. These are people that don't go on social media, people that are higher than all of this, making these calls. You know why? Because they don't care. They don't care. They're not on social media to see it. The only thing they see is money. And if for some unknown way, we get a hashtag trending. A hashtag, it's the same thing happening at MLB right now. MLB wants franchise. We want franchise changes in MLB. The only way you're going to change that is if you make a bunch of noise. So here's what I'm going to tell you, listeners. If you're hearing this, the only way franchise modes get changed is if you make noise. And I don't care if it's good news. I used to be, hey, make positive noise. Use your voice the right way. I don't care if it's good noise, bad noise. Every one of these companies' posts, you should be undergoing, hey, what about franchise mode? You know why? Because that's all their marketing people. They're going to go, well, we don't want this bad stuff on there. Every one of us should be on the bottom of every one of those replies going, so what about franchise mode? Well, you're releasing Bo Jackson? Oh, that's great. What if you could use Legends in franchise mode? How cool would that be? Like, I don't understand any reason why we have to go through this amount of pain and just overall work to get anything done these days.
Yeah, I feel so bad for the people there that are constantly the ones that are berated on Twitter, or the people that feel like they have to answer all that information, right? I applauded Sean Grady for coming out and being a face during the time that was probably the most difficult to answer a lot of these questions for Madden when fixed Madden franchise is going on. My number one frustration has always been, if you were going to be a public face, you need to be a consistent public face that has a consistent cadence of some form of communication. And I think I've met Grady, I know Grady, and I have no issues with him whatsoever. But I would say my largest criticism has been, yes, he was there during that initial wave, but we haven't seen a lot of him since. And I think, you look at Swami, we have both known Swami for a long time. Swami is as good as they come, right? Swami is a genuinely good human being. Not saying that anyone else isn't a genuinely good human being, but Swami is like one of the nicest people you will meet, unless you're talking about Blake Bortles, and good lord, that conversation. But Swami is constantly answering questions about the game, things that are within his realm, but things that are outside of his realm too. And that's what I hate to see, is when these guys are employees, right? And they're taking it upon themselves because they care about the product and the business so much that they are literally out there fielding and answering questions, because people just want information. People need a central form of communication, or to know, hey, I can expect something from this person on XYZ timeline, right? Once a month or once every 2 months or whatever, right? They're looking forward to that information. They yearn for that. Sports gamers want consistent communication. And when they have to just scrounge it up from employees, like, it's not fair for those guys and girls to have to be the face of taking all of that communication, which ends up being negative because people are so frustrated. And I hate that for them. And I just hope that franchise can get some resources. College football is not a bad product, and we can find a happy medium for everybody right now.
I can't believe it's 2021 and we're still talking about franchise getting resources. It's so the quote I want to give the quote, okay? The quote that an unnamed source that is said to be a development member for Madden stated was, and this is in regards to the staff that is still working on Madden, not being told whether they're going to be replacing the move staff. They're stressed and frustrated. One source said, "It's not a good place right now." I don't know, man. I don't know. That should tell you all it is. And again, I know Mike Straw. I know Mike Straw personally. We've had conversations. We've had it out before. Like we've had good conversations. We have bad conversations. They're always respectful. They're always journalistic. When he puts a story up, I believe him. Okay, I believe he spoke to somebody, and I absolutely believe that there is some large turmoil going down in Tiburon right now, with higher ups telling developers, "Hey, you monkey, get to work. Get to work. You're supposed to work harder. You want something done? Work hard. You know what? Wait until the grind story comes up, because it's coming." You want to remember what happened when all the grind stories came up about Cyberpunk? Hey, EA, you want that on you? Because if you don't start hiring backups, listen, I've talked to the people too. I've talked to the people. I reached out to a bunch of my friends that work down there. You better start waking up. I know they're working overtime. I know the hours they work. I know how you don't protect them. I know how you treat your community managers and how they drop like flies. That's right. Why don't you count how many community managers EA has had over the last, 5 years across their sports games? You should probably do that at some point, and then get back to me about just how bad it is at EA. So let's hope, for the developers' sake, that story isn't something that has to come out. But I got a feeling that story is going to come out at some point soon as well. Another story real quick, a little bit of more positive note. Roster sharing, the update that we've been waiting for NHL, is coming out December 9th, or planned to come out December 9th. NHL announced this today on their Twitter page. Roster creators like Toogie24 on Twitch, who just does unbelievable roster work. These folks, I know that we bag on roster makers, like in the actual companies. But they only have so much they can do. The unlimited time, well, it's not even unlimited time, but the time that Toogie and these guys put into rosters, I would highly suggest on December 9th, if you want to see a franchise mode. NHL is a fantastic franchise mode. There's still a 10-hour trial out on EA Play if you have it. Try that out for 10 hours. Download the rosters and see just how good Toogie's work is. And some of those other guys, there's going to be other guys from Operation Sports or from Reddit doing rosters as well. Toogie's just the one I know, because I've seen him do the work. He does the work on his Twitch channel. So that's going to be a big thing for NHL. But correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't roster sharing broke somewhere else?
Yeah, I mean, you want to Bengal, for example. I feel like Bengal has a once every 2 week tweet about how broken Madden share essentially is, and I every time I'm like, there's no shot that it's still broken. I gave up on the roster share after the first like week of the game when it like would not work for me. And I went back in this past week as I was creating another draft class for one of my Madden series. It's still absolutely broken. Not only is roster sharing broken, literally franchise times out literally like so many times when I'm like doing something in franchise mode and
I
kicks you
know.
out. But roster sharing, I literally, I just reached out to EA though, asking like, hey, do we know if there's anything potentially happening for that? So fingers crossed, there's a fix coming for that. But as it looks right now, it's just absolutely borked beyond belief. Still, it works sometimes, doesn't others, and it's a terrible experience right now.
I just sent the tweet out. I quote tweeted the roster sharing and said, "Hey Madden, maybe you want to get the NHL team to fix your roster sharing for you since they seem to be doing so good
They
about it."
lend some developers.
Yeah, maybe you can move some developers from Vancouver to the Buron to make up for the guys you just sent over to go work on college football. So, all right, let's get away from sports gaming. Let's go after some chaos, and we're gonna start chaos wise in the college basketball arena. Last Friday, Duke faced off against then number one Gonzaga, and I will say I watched this game. I've been doing not trying to advertise here, but we've been sidecasting a lot of college basketball games over on the Twitch channel recently. Real fun. You ever sidecasted sports before?
I have not, but I actually have tuned in a little bit to yours, mostly so I can do my daily flipping you off from behind my computer. But it's actually pretty entertaining because it's nice to have like that additional. It's like watching sports with like a friend, like on the couch or whatever, because you're getting an additional like POV.
Yeah, you're getting like, and then the chat gets going, and it's kind of like I liken it to, I'm not a big bar guy, but like going to the bar and watching sports at the bar and kind of like getting that vibe with everybody. Duke actually ends up beating Gonzaga in a close game. Paulo Banchero had a very good game for them, had 18 in the first half. I think he was well over 20 by the time the game ended. Super impressed with Mark Williams for Duke. Mark Williams was the guy on the court. Like I liked Keels. I liked Roach. Theo John showed me a little bit. But Mark Williams, the center for Duke, really is just like an energy on the defensive side for them. Still really raw offensive game wise, but they beat Gonzaga. They end up going to number one. Did you see any of the Gonzaga game and how they played for this?
Yeah, so I definitely, while I was streaming, thanks to YouTube TV, I literally I had my phone on the charger watching the game and then dying in Warzone. But it was worth it, man. Like, to me, that was one of those matches. That's why you love college basketball, right? Of seeing these like big time programs, the powerhouses, even though Gonzaga is like a relatively small school for how much of a powerhouse they are, but
they're a college basketball powerhouse, yeah,
for sure. But seeing them go up against one another and like, as much as I love Duke, I was excited to see what Chet Holmgren was going to do. He didn't have a terrible game. Like I think he had like 15 or 20, I think, that night. It wasn't a massive performance for him, but you could definitely tell that Duke was doing their best to throw bodies at him, to keep him uncomfortable and make sure that he wasn't able to ISO or face up much once he got into the post. But it was so good. Banchero, I think, is just an absolute stud. Duke has a roster of dudes that are just killing it right now.
Yeah, for sure.
But that game was, as a Duke fan, that was one of the highlights more so than a recent one.
The other thing that I want to talk about from that game was Drew Timme. Drew Timme, and this actually, I've seen him do this in a couple of games since they've started playing. He seems like he's trying to do too much. Drew Timme looks like he's trying to be a superstar when he's a very, very good player, and he will get drafted to the NBA, but I saw him try to do moves on the Mark Williams down low. I see him trying to dribble drive a lot more than he really should. He's still got really good vision when he's passing, but he has not looked good for a couple of games. He gets his points. He still has some decent moves, like I said, but especially against Duke, Mark Williams essentially shut him completely down, and it was tough to watch at times. And I saw him do this in a game since that. It just feels like he thinks every shot that leaves his hand is going to go. So he feels like he can just throw it up. And I'm starting to worry that Drew Timme is feeling a little pressure from Chet Holmgren, or he's feeling pressure of them being a preseason, number one Final Four team and thinking he has to lead this team when honestly, with the way Nembhard was playing, with the way Holmgren's playing, like those guys, he doesn't need to be the number one all the time.
Yeah, my sort of rationale behind Drew Timme and the way he's been playing is that he's feeling more pressure about himself and his draft stock. Timmy's a junior, but you have to imagine. I don't think he's coming back, right? Like, I don't think he's going to come back next year because he knows he has a chance to go in the first round. I know some people were saying
Mhm.
that Drew Timmy might be lottery pick before the season. I didn't see that. I think you have to remember Timmy is a junior now at this stage. Juniors, it's a little bit harder for them to figure out sort of that, especially when you're a junior who plays in the post, but also has not really a defined position when you come to the NBA. Like, does he play small forward in the NBA? Does he play power forward in the NBA? He's obviously not going to play center. And I think Timmy is a very good basketball player, but he has to fit in a very specific system that is ball movement heavy, like San Antonio, for example. I think could be a great place for him to ultimately go. But I think, yes, you do have the pressure of Chet Holmgren and him leading the team and him being ultimately the face of that team now. People have started to
Right.
forget a little bit about Timmy, who still is a great college player.
Mhm.
But I think it's a mix of that and then also trying to figure out your draft stock. And you don't want to be there for your senior year if you're a guy who's on the bubble of where you ultimately go.
Yeah, I still think Timmy ends up being a lottery pick. I think there's going to be a team that will stretch for him. And again, I think Nembhard has really shown up for Gonzaga. I think Nembhard especially has shown that when you're talking about like Holmgren doesn't really push the offense, Timmy doesn't really push the offense. When that offense needs to go into like a next gear, Nembhard's the guy that's been doing it for them. He did it against Duke, and I think he didn't get as many chances as I would have liked to see him get.
Yeah. I think Gonzaga is going to be just fine coming by the
Yeah,
end of the year.
for
Like
sure.
we talked about it earlier. The thing that helps Gonzaga so much is that they have so many dudes that can control the ball and handle the ball. Timmy, Nemhart, and then obviously Holmgren. Like those are three premier ball handlers who have varying heights and varying skill sets, but can all shoot
Yep.
to a degree. They're going to be a fine team, but I just think they have to find that I guess sort of like their identity of sorts. And I think part of that is going to be Timmy succeeding and saying, or just saying, like, hey, look, Holmgren is our main guy. I'm going to be a great Batman. Do you want to always try to be Jordan, or can you accept the role of being Pippen? And even though you may be just as skillful, still be able to say, like, I'm willing to take a necessary role that's a little bit lower to make sure this team is the best it could possibly be.
And then the curse of number one strikes again because Duke's next game, they come out and they're handling OSU by halftime. Okay. I will say they're handling OSU in a dirty game. It was a very sloppy game for Duke. I don't think Bencaro played particularly well the entire game against OSU, but OSU was smart. They threw bodies at Bencaro all night. Especially Liddell. Liddell super impressed me from them, especially against Mark Williams, against Bencaro, against a number of different defenders. He looked like he had all the moves he needed inside to score at will. I didn't like the way they used Ahrens in the first half. Ahrens came back, had a decent second half for OSU. Talk to me about what happened with Duke here. Was the game too big for them? I hate to say too big for Duke at this point, but they do have they are meshing some new players in there. Were they still on the high from Gonzaga? Game was at OSU, so like that's another thing too, or it was just a combination of all of this.
I think it's a combination of a lot of things, but I think ultimately you're a number one team in the nation, right? This happens to college basketball teams all the time. You're number one team. You have a lot of either underclassmen or unproven players who have been on the roster but haven't necessarily played a ton, and so
Right.
they don't really know the challenges of the potentially 30 game season that teams might essentially have. Well, Liddell is such a fun player for Ohio State. I think he's a junior ish, sophomore, junior. I can't
I think
remember.
he's junior. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's junior.
But Liddell's been fun to watch the last couple of years. Like I think he's going to help an NBA team for sure whenever he decides to declare for the draft. But Duke's issue is that they've been relying too much on Paolo. He didn't have a great game. Wendell Moore, I think, had a pretty solid game, but they had no one else in double digits. So anytime you're playing a game like that and you're on the road playing a team like Ohio State, which even though they aren't the powerhouse that they once were 10 years ago, they have still been a very good college basketball team and fighting for position in the top 25. You're going to mess up. Liddell played well for Ohio State. Zedke was killing Duke left and right. They had a dominant first. They were up by like 13, 15, something like that in the first half. And then in the second half, you can't score 23 points in the second half and expect to win many games. That's just not going to do it. And offensively, Duke was flat. But I'm happy. Lose a game like this early on the road, get a test. Coach K, I'm sure, was screaming in the locker room and then doing his passive thing and letting players know, like, hey, you messed up. We got to do better. We'll fight, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. This should be a great game, but I'm more interested in how they respond their next 3 to 5 games more than anything else.
Yeah. What do you think long term for both teams? Are they both Final Four teams, you think? Which one has the better chance, right? In your opinion, listen, college basketball is a crapshoot when it comes to, and everyone's just trying to get the March Madness, get a decent seed. And then from there, like legitimately anything can happen. It's the sport where we actually look for 12 seeds
Yeah.
to make an upset every year over fives. How do you feel about both of these teams heading further into the season?
Yeah, I mean, Duke to me has shown they can be an Elite Eight team. Final Four is tough. I think you have to hit a different gear offensively, and you can't have days off. You can have days off defensively and still make the Final Four, but offensively, you in college basketball, you have to consistently be there. If you're struggling offensively but okay defensively, you're not going super far in the tournament. Ohio State, I think they're a tournament team. I don't think I'd be willing to say Final Four for them. If this had been at Duke, maybe it's a little bit different for me, right? If you're playing in Cameron Indoor and you're going into that environment and then winning in the way that they did, rallying in the second half like they did, I'm probably changing my mind a little bit. But I think Ohio State's definitely a tournament team. It's just I need to see more from them before I feel like they can make a deeper run past, the round of 32.
And Gonzaga Final Four, right? We're saying Final Four no matter what for them. Going to be really interesting to see Purdue at number one here. Further strengthening. Yeah, I know, right? Further strengthening this whole Big Ten ACC matchups. I think it's really, really showing that the Big Ten is essentially blowing the ACC out right now.
Wild.
Forget about the OSU Duke game. Like that's a big game atmosphere, but like across the board, the Big Ten is just knocking ACC. And we talked about this earlier. It's a down year for the ACC. Outside of Duke, a bunch of their teams.
Where is UNC? What is UNC doing?
No, completely gone. That's what I'm saying. Completely, like they fell out of the. I think they fell out of the top 25 as we're talking about this. I think they got 9 votes for the top 25 in the AP top 25 right now. Ohio State, in comparison, has 75. They're going to be a top 25 team when the rankings come back out. Talking about rankings, let's finish this up with college football. Absolute chaos over the last couple of weeks. Michigan beat Ohio State. Alabama survives against Arkansas.
Jeez.
Cincinnati holds their business end up at 12-0. So as of this week, week 9 college football rankings, Georgia at number 1, 12-0. Michigan 11-1 at number 2 after beating Ohio State. Alabama 11-1, number 3. Cincinnati 12-0. And I'm only going to mention the teams that I think have a shot here. Oklahoma State 11-1 at number 5. Notre Dame, who I think still has an outside chance, number 6 at 11-1. And that's it. Ohio State falls from 2 to 7. If Ohio State had fallen to 5 or even 6, I think Ohio State has a chance of getting back in. That being said, I think they're done. I think they're completely out of the talk. So, upcoming schedule. Georgia will face Alabama in the SEC title game.
Yep.
Michigan will face, I believe, Oklahoma State will face Baylor in the Big 12 championship game. Baylor ranked number 9 right now. Michigan will face off against, is it Iowa? I'm sorry, ranked number 13, Iowa. It was going to be Wisconsin, but Wisconsin lost. Against Iowa in the Big 10 game. Cincinnati will face off against number 21 Houston in their title game. I'm going to give you what is your thought on where this goes. First of all, I'm going to give you a couple of scenarios afterwards just to kind of get your brain moving.
Yeah, to me, this is why I love the college football playoff. I still wish we had a 6-game grouping, but I understand why 4 is a preferred method for a lot of people. The Georgia Alabama game is going to be wild. Look, Auburn nearly beat Alabama. Alabama just didn't have, a great offense. That defense definitely helped them out a little bit. I think it was like 4 overtimes, 4 overtimes, something like that. I do think, though, Georgia's defense is so close to being a historic defense for college football. They obviously have to finish out the season, but I would take Georgia beating Alabama. I think it's going to be. I think it's a 10-point win for Georgia. I'm just going to give the benefit of the doubt to their defense, and they're going to force some turnovers, and they're probably
10-point win, not a blowout. 10-point win, not a blowout. That's a close win, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's why I think this complicates things, because you're not going to blow out Alabama. I genuinely don't see Nick Saban getting blown out in an SEC title game. That That just doesn't feel like it's going to ultimately happen.
Right.
Michigan, Iowa is going to be a fun one. I think Michigan is going to be susceptible. You just played the emotional game over Ohio State to put so much effort into that. Iowa is always a good physical football team. I could see Iowa making an upset against Michigan. Cincinnati, I feel like will probably take care of Houston, but we get to find out if they're frauds or not. Oklahoma State, though, is the most interesting team here. The Oklahoma State Baylor game is going to be fun. I'm assuming OK State wins, but I just would not want to be on the committee because, good God, I don't feel like it's going to be an easy scenario. I feel like we're going to have literal chaos here.
So I'm going to give you a scenario. You tell me how this shakes out. Georgia beats Alabama by a touchdown. Okay. Michigan beats Iowa. Cincinnati beats Houston. Oklahoma State beats Baylor.
How much does OK State win by?
Handle. Not. They don't blow them out. I mean, Baylor's ranked number 9. Baylor's a very good squad. Baylor's a very good squad. When they faced off earlier this year, Oklahoma State beat them 24-14.
If Alabama loses by less than 15 points, I think they're still in the top 4. The College Football Playoff Committee will do everything in its power to have Roll Tide as a part of that top 4 because they know that SEC money is huge. And having 2 SEC teams in that top 4 is massive. Having a Cincinnati there is not as important. Having an OK State in there would be more money.
Here's the deal. If that happens the way I just described it, Cincinnati's out of the playoffs. And specifically because Alabama losing to the number 1 team in the country does not show as a bad loss. It shows it's an okay, like just, hey, you lost to the number 1 team in the country. It'll end up being Georgia, Michigan, Oklahoma State, Alabama. I would think maybe Alabama even moves up or stays at 3
I don't
with
know
that
if they
loss.
can do it. They're going to get creamed if they pull Cincinnati out after being 4 and then beating a top 25 team and you pull them out. That is going to be insane.
Oklahoma State would have beaten a number 9 team and they win a Power 5 conference championship game. Cincinnati doesn't have that. Matter of fact, Cincinnati knows they don't have that because they're moving conferences in 2 years.
True.
Cincinnati, I even think if you want to make an argument about this, I really truly believe this. Cincinnati knows the problem they have on their hands. That's why they're moving conferences. And if I'm a representative for the College Football Playoff Committee, I'm going to say, hey, look, Cincinnati fully understands that their schedule is nowhere near the top. I'm going to say top 10 teams in the nation right now.
They're undefeated
Against Notre Dame and what would be Houston.
Who's number 6. I think that also matters. Notre Dame, they have his number 6. So they're valuing that win. I know the strength of schedule, but they're still valuing Notre Dame as putting them as a top 6 team at this point. I think that has to matter to some degree, right?
Does it?
It should. I feel
I'm
like
giving you
so
for those of you in the podcast, I'm giving a very, very smug, weird look. You said it yourself, and I truly believe this. If Alabama does not get blown out by Georgia, they're in the playoff. And if Oklahoma State beats Houston or Oklahoma State beats Baylor, they're going to jump Cincinnati. So the college football playoff is looking, I'm going to be real with you. If Cincinnati's in the playoff, they're getting blown out by the first team they see. Okay?
They'd fight Georgia.
If they play Georgia, they're losing by 40. They're losing by 40 to Georgia. Okay? I've seen them play. They don't have that team. I've seen Cincinnati play 2 games this season, okay? I saw them. I actually purposely watched them against Tulsa because that was when the conversation started happening, and I watched them play Navy, okay? My team. I watched them play Navy. They beat Navy 27-20, okay? You want to talk about Navy real quick? Bro, Navy is currently 3-8 on the year, has the best jersey in the country coming up against Army, but they've lost to Marshall, Air Force. They only lost 28-20 to Houston, who Cincinnati is getting ready to play in the championship game. They lost to SMU. They lost to Memphis. They lost to Cincy 27-20. They got blown out by Notre Dame 34-6. Lost to East Carolina. Dude, they're not a good football team. They're not a good football team. And Cincy has struggled Recently, no, but they've struggled with some not good football teams recently. The college football playoffs are looking for a reason to boot that team out of the playoffs. And since he's going to do the thing that UCF did, hey, this is the real championship game.
Yeah.
We should have a championship game. They're going to be in a good bowl, but they got to hope for Michigan, or they got to hope for Oklahoma State to lose, or they got to hope for Alabama not to show up to the Georgia game.
This is why we need a 16 playoff.
I don't think so, because then if you're at the 16 playoff, then Ohio State's gonna have a conversation. Like Baylor's gonna have a conversation. There are Ole Miss right now is gonna have a conversation. It is funny though, if you want to go down the records: Georgia 12-0, Michigan 11-1, Alabama 11-1, Cincinnati 12-0, Oklahoma State 11-1, Notre Dame 11-1. The first 2-loss team is Ohio State.
Yep.
So I mean, that's a 2-loss team getting into the college football playoffs over an undefeated team.
I think Michigan loses this weekend, though. I think
if Michigan loses to Iowa, then yes, then Alabama gets in, Cincinnati gets in, and probably Oklahoma State if they win. Because I think Notre Dame hurts themselves by not having a conference championship game. And the NBC money's really good though, isn't it?
Well, having they don't have a spineless coach anymore. Please hire Marcus Freeman as a coach for Notre Dame, by the way.
No. You know who it's going to be, don't you?
Who?
I put the meme up on Twitter the other night.
It's not going to be Urban.
It's going to be Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer already looking like the disloyal man in the meme. Look at, hey, I got Trevor Lawrence behind me, but damn, does Notre Dame look good? Damn, does that Irish ass look good in the mirror? Oh, baby. Let it come all over me. I need that Irish love.
Let what?
Not like that. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Get your mind out of the gutter. Come on, cut that.
We found this week's clip for social media.
Get out of here. Wrap it up. Come on, man. I'm trying to get out of here.
Yeah, well, you should wrap it up at this point too. But anyways, great episode this week, Mills. Great to be back. Again, Madden franchise mode. We allegedly had some news. It sounds pretty concrete, but we'll find more information on that pretty soon. Check out the roster sharing update dropping for NHL 22 on December 9th if you have not yet already. Warzone has an update coming out. Halo has an update coming out. Forza Horizon 5 still a fire game. Xbox Game Pass is so much content. If you haven't already, check it out, because that Halo campaign is coming on December 8th. And I can
look at me. Next week, Wednesday, 8 p.m. Twitch.tv/Mills, Facebook.gg/GoodGameBro. We will be live. Interact with the podcast live. We will both have our chats up. We will be interacting with you. This will be for the podcast. It'll be the podcast recording will be live every Wednesday from now on, with the exception of Christmas week and New Year's week, because all of Rare Drop will be off for those 2 weeks. So no episode on the 23rd of December, no episode on the 30th of December. We will be back on the 6th. So 2 more episodes, then we're off for 2 weeks.
Absolutely. And if you haven't already, make sure you follow Overplayed Podcast on Twitter. It's OVRPLYD pod on Twitter. We both try to retweet some of that stuff. We're both mentioning it all the time, and we'll make sure that we tweet out when we're going live as well, so that way you can easily watch wherever you essentially want to. But anyways, it's been a great episode, a lot to cover. Duke, please don't lose any more games. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Be safe, be smart. Tell somebody you love them. See you guys soon.
Ciao.